Okay, assalamualaikum and good morning. So, welcome to Ecology 2 again. So, we are in chapter 8 Ecology. Here is chapter breakdown, what we will learn today. Okay, so what is ecology? It is a term coined by Ernst Haeckel in 1866. The word oikos means house in Greek, and ecology, it is the study of home or habitat. So, within a habitat, there is a lot of species living in there and interacting with living environment and non-living environment. So what is biotic and abiotic? So in ecosystem, there are all of the living and non-living components in certain area. So you have either biotic, the living part, or abiotic, which are the non-living parts. Okay, so niche is what is the role that is played by an organism in a certain ecosystem. Are they prey? Are they parasite? What are their habitats? And what are the resources that it uses? For example, for food, for nutrients. So according to Eugene Odom, it may be said that habitat is organism address and niche is a fraction. So here is the levels of organization from least complex to most complex. Macromolecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organs, systems, organism, population, community, ecosystem, biome, biosphere. Organism. They are entire living things that can carry out all basic life processes, meaning they can take in materials, derive energy from food, release waste, grow, respond to environment, and reproduce. Population. This is the next level. It is an interbreeding group of individuals belonging to the same species living in a particular geographic area. So here are many different populations. Population of owls, seals, cats, and pandas. Community. It is where a lot of organisms, which are in different species, living in the same area. They are natural and they are artificial. For example, like farms and zoos, these are artificial. Ecosystem. It consists all of the living things in a particular area, such with the abiotic and also the biotic parts of the ecosystem. So both of them influence each other, creating a stable system. Biome, it is a specific geographic area notable for flora and fauna living there. A biome can be made up of many ecosystems. So here are many of the biomes on Earth. So aquatic biomes, marine biomes, they are for the sea water. Saltwater ocean cover over 75% of the planet's surface. The remaining will be the freshwater biomes where you have lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, and wetlands. So freshwater ecosystems, these will cover 0.80% of Earth's surface and inhibit 0.009% of its total water. And within this freshwater ecosystem, we have 41% of the world's known fish species. So there are two basic types of freshwater ecosystems. One is lentic, slow moving water, and one is lotic, which is rapid moving water. Marine ecosystems. Marine ecosystems can be divided into many zones depending on water depth and shoreline features. You have the pelagic zone, which is the open ocean. The lower you go, deeper you go, you have less life. A benthic zone, at the bottom of the sea, there are a lot of invertebrates. So why is the ocean salty? So the reason why the ocean is salty is that rivers, they discharge mineral-rich water to the oceans. Okay, so this one way where the salts are deposited, it is from the rivers which drain landscape. Terrestrial biomes. Terrestrial biomes are characterized either by weather, plants, animals living in certain area. The diversity of organisms of each biome is generally controlled by abiotic environmental conditions and the productivity of the dominant vegetation. Climate is a major factor determining distribution of terrestrial biomes. Among important climatic factors are latitude, either Arctic, boreal, temperate, subtropical, or tropical. Humidity, how much moisture do you have in the air? Humid, semi-humid, semi-arid, and arid. So humid means that you have many moisture in the air. Arid would be having less moisture in the air, which is dry air, for example in the desert. So seasonal variation. it is dry and wet season. Precipitation and rainfall. So some areas on Earth have most of the rainfall during summer. Mediterranean, they receive rainfall during winter. Elevation. How is the height from the sea level? Increasing elevation causes distribution of habitat types similar to increasing altitude. First biome is tropical rainforest. They occur in equatorial areas where temperature is warm and days are 11 to 12 hours long year round. Dense tall evergreen forest with year round rain, little to no seasonal variation, and very scarce nutrient. Why is it? Because of the soil is very poor in nutrient. Okay, and a lot of these trees usually do block sunlight, so there's less biomass on the ground. So for example, countries have Malaysia, Brazil, Indonesia, and Madagascar. So here are some of the organisms that live there. You have the coconut trees, durian trees, civet cat, king cobra, tree frog, and the toucan. Savannas. Savannas have low annual precipitation and long dry seasons. They're dominated by grasses and scattered trees, warm temperatures all year round. North Africa, for example, you have Serengeti. Papua New Guinea and Australia also have savanna. And then lastly, in Asia, we have Bhutan and Nepal. These also have these wide grasslands which are dry. So in the savanna, you have the savanna cat. Okay, you have the hyena, the meerkat, acacia tree. Okay, you also have the lynx. Okay, on the top left, you can see there's a lot of common savanna animals. For example, the wild beast, the zebra, ostrich, the lion. Deserts. Extremely low and unpredictable rainfall. High temperatures fluctuations. For example, in the morning or in the day, it will be quite high temperature, 60 degrees Celsius. And it can go as low as 0 to -30 at night. Due to the extreme temperatures, animals usually hunt at night. Vegetations include shrubs and cacti. So locations include Sahara, Kalahari, Gobi, and Antarctica. So here are many of the desert animals. You have the hare, the sidewinder, the desert tortoise, scorpion, ferret, camel, and also cactus. Next should be the chaparral, the coastline savanna. They are found in coastline regions. You have dense shrubs and grasses, low-growing trees spaced apart. Very hot and dry summer, rainy winter with minimal rain, frequent forest fires. So locations, coastal region of Australia, America, and South African Cape region. So number 5, temperate grassland, which is a cooler savanna. They are also known as prairies or steppes. Mostly they are grass with scattered trees, low amount of rain, thus frequent forest fires, hot summers and cold winters. Location, various regions in New Zealand, Hungary, Russia, and etc. So you can see the Corsair fox, the saiga, the badger, the prairie dog, prairie chicken, and also the yak. Temperate deciduous forests. These have more than one season and dry. Abundant rain all year round. Few evergreen plants, more deciduous plants. Soils contain more nutrients than tropical forests. Why is it? Because of the leaves. Okay, usually the leaf will change color. When the leaf change color, they will fall on the ground. When they fall on the ground, when they disintegrate, when they decompose, all of the nutrients within the leaves will be returned back to the soil. Unlike the rainforest. Rainforest, the leaves would just stay green all year long, so no, they will never fall down until they die. Okay, so location for the temperate decidual forests: Eastern United States, Canada, Europe, China, and Japan. So you can see here are the typical decidual forest and the animals within it. You have the bald eagle, raccoon, grey wolf, deer, and opossum. Number 7, taigas. So taigas is what we call the boreal forest or coniferous forest, mostly found in northern hemisphere with high altitude region. So it is extremely cold and long winter. Summer is short, cool, and dry. So it has low to moderate precipitation in the form of snow and frozen water, thus considered as dry. So it is cold tolerant. For example, for these trees, the fir trees, the cosmos trees, they are cold tolerant and cone bearing. So instead of leaves, they have needles. Location: Alaska, Central Canada, and Siberia. So here are the animals: wolves, bobcats, foxes, lynx, minks, and wolverines. Number 8, tundra. It is the land with underlying permafrost. It is located between North Pole and the taigas. Okay, so why is permafrost important? Because permafrost, it makes the ground watertight and maintain the vast network of wetlands and lakes across the Arctic tundra. And also, they has acted as carbon sink for thousands of years. If they melt, if they thaw, it could release large amounts of this CO2 gas, meaning that global warming will become worse. So we should not let them melt. In terms of temperature, it is extremely cold all year round with minimal rain. And it doesn't have any trees, it is treeless. But for a brief period in summer, 2 months, you have shrubs and wildflowers that grow. Why? Because during this time, due to the tilt of the earth, it actually has 24-hour sunlight. So the sun doesn't set. So here are the animals that live in the tundra: polar bear, the Arctic fox, Arctic rabbit, seals, and also penguins. So if you can see the pattern, the vegetation in each one of these biomes, they are actually a result of both temperature and also rainfall. Okay, so the balance between rainfall and temperature would influence what kind of biome that will appear. Okay, for example, you can see tundra, very low rain but very low temperature. Okay, desert, very high temperature, very low rain. Okay, if you go to that area that is on the right, which are the extreme, very high temperature, very high rain, you get tropical forests. The biosphere. The biosphere is a global ecosystem, sum of all the planet ecosystems. It is the most complex level of organization in ecology. So here is the biosphere that we are currently living in. The most popular picture of this biosphere, which is the Earth, it is the blue marble. It is the selfie that is taken by Apollo 17 satellite in 1972 at the height of 45,000 kilometers. And here on the bottom, you can see that Earth is just a dot. Okay, this picture is taken by Voyager at 1.6 billion kilometers away, just beyond the orbit of Saturn, which is the planet that is after Jupiter. And so here, our biosphere is very insignificant, very small compared to the rest of the objects in the universe. Part 2. Population ecology. Population ecology studies the changes in the population size and the factors that regulate populations over time. Models of population growth. Exponential growth, it gives you an idealized picture of unregulated growth of a population. So if all of the resources are infinite food, infinite space, infinite sunlight, infinite water, then growth will be like a J curve. Growth of population is limited by population limiting factors, including resources, breeding area, competition, birth, and death. So all of these are not infinite, they are limited. Even all living beings actually have their lifespan and they will have to die. So you will continuously lose population every year. If the population doesn't die and if the food is infinite, then it will go for a J curve. But in real life, these are all of the limiting factors for our population. So because we have a lot of limiting factors, the model that we use for population growth is the logistic growth models. They're S-shaped and more realistic. They level off at the carrying capacity, which is the maximum population size. Okay, survivorship curves. This is a graph showing the proportion of individuals surviving to each age for a given species or group. There are three types of survivorship curves: 1, 2, and 3. Type 1, high survival probability in early and middle life, followed by a rapid decline in survival in later life. So these type of animals, they produce very few offspring but care for them well. This is called the case selection. For example, humans and many other large mammals. Type 2, it is intermediate, roughly the same mortality rate and survival probability regardless of age. Some birds and some lizards follow this pattern. So no matter how big they are, okay, whether they are a baby bird or an adult bird, they die the same. Type 3, the greater mortality early in life, low rates of death for those surviving this bottleneck. So meaning that if they actually manage to survive their adulthood, they will live for a long time. Okay, so these are species that produce a large number of offspring, which is R selection. For example, marine invertebrates. R and K selection. Okay, R, it is the species with high reproductive rate to survive. For example, weeds and insects, and also you can see in this picture rats. K selection, species that produce relatively very few offspring that have a good chance of survival. For example, mammals, people, and birds. So in the etymology of the Verhoeven equation, R comes from rate, K comes from carrying capacity. So how many and how often? R selection, we can call it quick and many. K selection, we call it slower and fewer. For age of maturation, R selection, very young, they can already breed. For example, for cats, okay, you have a 1 month old cat, okay, 1 month is actually enough for them to breed to make a lot of kittens. But for humans, you have to wait until probably age of 18, then she's actually mature enough to have a baby. So it is older, many seasons after birth. What about the number of offspring? For R selection, many. For cats, another example, you can usually see 3 to 4 kittens in litter. For rats, even more. But for humans, 1 child or maybe 2 if you have twins per birth. Okay, so K selection usually few. Okay, frequency for breeding. Usually for R selection is usually frequently high fecundity, meaning that many times per season and many eggs per breeding season. Okay, for K selection, once a season, low fecundity. If you look at humans, every 9 months, then a baby can come out. Okay, not more than that. And every time baby is born, it's just one. Okay, if you want to compare with cats, a cat can breed many times per year. Okay, and they can have many kittens also. Right. So size of offspring for R selection usually small, K selection usually larger. Mortality rate for R selection is high. Many offspring do not live to sexual maturity. K selection low, offspring generally survive. Example species: mice, rabbits, most insects, cane toads, octopus, and mass spawning organisms. For K selection, okay, they are usually the mammals, humpback whales, elephants, humans, and also some birds. Energy flow. Energy starts at the producer level, which is plant, and then it moves out to the primary consumers, which are herbivores, and then from there it moves to the secondary consumer, which are carnivores. Primary or herbivore, they eat producers. Secondary, they eat primary consumers. Okay, so usually they are the carnivores. Tertiary, they eat secondary consumers, which are carnivores. And all of these will be eaten by the detritivores, which are the decomposers. So if there's a trophic level, producers have the lowest trophic level, and the consumers usually have a higher level than that. In a terrestrial food chain, the lowest level will be the plant. In aquatic, it is phytoplankton. So there are plankton that does photosynthesis. Next will be the primary consumer. Okay, the first level is the producer. Second level is the herbivores. Okay, primary usually in the terrestrial food chain, it is the eater of plants. For example, this grasshopper. And for aquatic food chain, it is the zooplankton. Zooplankton are the plankton that eat the phytoplankton. Secondary consumer, okay, the third level. For terrestrial, they are the eater of the herbivores. so carnivores. Okay, you can see this the dormouse. Okay, and in the sea, in the aquatic, you have the fishes. The fish is the plankton. Okay, tertiary consumers, which is the fourth level. Okay, so these would be the carnivore that eat other carnivore. Okay, so for example, in the terrestrial food chain, there are snake. Okay, what about the aquatic? We have the bigger fish that eat smaller fish. And finally, on the top level, the quaternary consumer, these are the big carnivore that eat the other carnivores and probably herbivores too. So usually they are omnivores. They are the top of the food chain. So terrestrial, usually they are either humans or apex predators such as this peregrine falcon. Okay, peregrine falcon is something like an eagle. Okay, in the sea, in the aquatic food chain, usually is the whales, the killer whales, the dolphins. Alright, for decomposers, all food chains and webs have decomposers or detritivores. These organisms, including bacteria, worms, rodents, insects, catfish, fungus, vultures, they eat everything. Everything that is created by that material, okay, produced by every level of the food chain. Food webs. A food web is a network of food chains and a more realistic view of energy flow. Every food web must include the sun and decomposers. So you can see here is a example of a food web. So in each food web, for one source of food, there might be 2 or 3 animal or organism that eat it. For example, you can see a producer. Okay, it is not just eaten by the plankton, but also eaten by the grasshopper and the duck and also the fish. And the fish can be eaten also by the stork, the duck also, and the water vole. Okay, so this is much more realistic. Nutrient cycling. In food webs, energy only moves one way up the trophic levels. Okay, nutrients must be recycled between organisms and abiotic reservoir. There are 4 main abiotic reservoirs: water, carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus. The water cycle. Water cycle is driven by the heat from the sun. Water cycles through precipitation, which is rain, evaporation, liquid to gas, and transpiration, liquid from plant leaves that turns to gas. So here is the water cycle. So water cycle starts from evaporation, one from the sea and some from the land. Okay, they evaporate and in the sky they would condensate into the rain clouds. Okay. So when they become rain clouds, the rain clouds become heavier and heavier. They will precipitate. Okay, it will rain on the land. Okay, and also on the sea. So now that the water is already rained from the sky, it will infiltrate the surface water and groundwater. Okay, they can either stay on the ground or they can flow underground into the sea, and it will start the cycle all over again. Okay, the carbon cycle. Carbon is used by photosynthesis and produced by cellular respiration. Carbon is actually needed to make anything organic, plants, animals, humans. And carbon from atmosphere is turned to organic compounds such as glucose by plants that do photosynthesis. Burning wood and fossil fuels increase CO2 in the atmosphere. Okay, you can see this is the carbon cycle. So it starts from the consumers. Consumers, when they breathe, they will create CO2 in the atmosphere. Okay, and then we as humans, we burn a lot of fossil fuel when we drive our car. When we burn a lot of material, all of this burning would increase CO2 in the atmosphere. CO2 in the atmosphere will be absorbed by the plants through photosynthesis. Okay, plants, algae, cyanobacteria all do photosynthesis, they absorb CO2. And then when any of this living being dies, plants, animals, they will decompose and form detritus. So detritivores or soil microbes will decompose these detritus and also release CO2 back to the atmosphere. Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen exists in the atmosphere as N2 gas, but that cannot be used by plants and animals. It might be converted to ammonia, NH4, and nitrates, NO2, to be used by plants. So the main role is played by bacteria, and the most usable nitrogen is stored in the soil. So it start with these living organisms. Okay, you can see this rabbit. Okay, rabbit and plants. Okay, so whenever an animal eats a plant or eats its food source, they will create amino acids which in their proteins. Okay, so when they die, they will form detritus, and the detritus will be decomposed by the detritivores to release ammonium. So this ammonium will be nitrified by bacteria to form nitrates. Okay, and plants will use the nitrate. Denitrifying bacteria will turn the nitrate into N2 gas again. So this N2 gas in the atmosphere, how can they get into the ground? Is due to the nitrogen fixing bacteria in root nodules of legumes. So they will turn this N2 gas into ammonium. Okay, so it is due to nitrogen fixation. So that's how nitrogen go from the atmosphere to the soil and to the animal, to the plants, and back to the atmosphere again. Okay, lastly, the phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus cycle depends on weathering of the rock and adding minerals to the soil. Why is it important? Because plants need phosphorus to grow, and consumers get phosphorus by eating plants. You can see here, for example, phosphorus, where do it come from? It comes from weathering of rock. Okay, but first of all, the rock must be uplifted. Okay, so when the rock is weathered by the elements, the wind, the water, the rain, the phosphates will be released into the ground. Okay, when it is released into the ground, the rainwater will flow over them, bringing them in, which is called runoff. So this runoff will flow all the way into any body of water, rivers or ponds or lakes. Okay. Other than that, some of the phosphate can be deposited into the soil. So when they are deposited into soil, the plants will be able to take in the phosphate from the soil. And animals that eat these plants, they will also get the phosphate. And when both of them die, the detritus will be decomposed by detritivores in the soil to re-release phosphate back into the soil. Okay, so the phosphate in the soil can go into the solution due to runoff, and they can slowly sink into the bottom of the body water as rock. So they will precipitate. So the rock is where they will remain for years and years and years until they are uplifted again. Right? The end.